kids have gone through. So she's probably moved on to some bigger, better things. Yes. All right. Good evening, everyone. I have some thank yous that I want to take care of first. First, thank you to each of our candidates for volunteering not only to be here this evening, but also in advance for those that are elected to fill the 2 vacant seats, for their future time and your dedication not only to our students, their families, but also the staff. I would also like to thank our home and school, our parents, for helping to co-host this event tonight and for providing the light refreshments that are in the back. Our home and school associations do so much, not only for our students and their families, but also for the staff. And this week they are going above and beyond to show their appreciation, and we are just so appreciative of them for everything that they do for us. So thank you. Also, thank you to Mr. Bach. He is behind the camera this evening through Buck TV and YouTube, is not only doing this live, but will also make it available for viewing for folks at home later on. That way everyone can stay informed and make their choices when they head to the polls. So now on to our candidates. First, we have Mr. Jim McKenzie. Jim and his wife moved to Oswego 21 years ago. Their 2 children went through Kingsford Park and Oswego Middle School. One is currently at OHS, and the other graduated from our high school and is attending SUNY Geneseo. Jim studied biology, chemistry, and adolescent education at SUNY Fredonia and completed his student teaching at Forestville Middle School High School, where he was also a substitute teacher. Nice. He earned his Master's of Science in Biology from Western Carolina University and his PhD in Molecular Medicine from Wake Forest School of Medicine. Since 2004, he has been a biology professor at SUNY Oswego, where he mentors students in the classroom, laboratory, and through advising. Jim says that he is proud to call himself a teacher since 1997. For the last 13 years, he has gained educational administrative experience as the biological science chairperson, where he sees over 25 faculty and staff, multiple budgets, facilities, and over 400 students. He began attending school board meetings around 2012 to learn a little bit more about the implementation of Common Core. Later, he volunteered for the middle school improvement and focus committees before he was elected to the school board in 2020 and then again in 2023. Jim has served as board president for the past 2 years. Jim's goal as a board member is to help foster a collaborative relationship with the board and with the stakeholders that allows us to best serve our district. He says that high-performing districts typically have stability within their boards and leadership. Meaningful academic and administrative plans take time to formulate and implement, and much longer to accurately measure their results. He believes our district has endured too much turnover in the last decade or two, but that we are now moving in the right direction. He would be honored to continue doing his part in making our district what our kids and our community deserve. In the middle, we have Mr. Tim Rice. He was born and raised in the city of Oswego and a 1986 graduate of the Oswego High School. Tim and his wife both reside in the city of Oswego. Their daughter is also a graduate of Oswego High School and now resides in New Hampshire. Tim is also a U.S. Navy veteran. Thank you for that. He earned his Bachelor of Science in Education at Ithaca College. In 2000, he entered the UA Local Number 73 Plumbers and Steam Fitters Apprenticeship Program, while he also did coursework with Washington Community College Industrial Training. Tim is currently the business agent for UA Local Number 81 Plumbers, Fitters, and Steam Fitters, HVC and R. He sits on the Board of Trustees on numerous boards, including the Union Pension, Health and Welfare, Annuity, and the Joint Apprenticeship of Training Committee. Tim is also involved with his community in several aspects. He was the City of Oswego Commissioner of Public Works. He sat on the Greater Oswego-Fulton Chamber of Commerce, the executive board of that, the City of Oswego Housing Authority Board. He served as the Oswego County Labor Council Vice President and President, and was also elected to the Oswego City Common Council. Tim's personal goal is to win this election and to have a better representation of our constituency on the school board. So welcome, Tim. And on our far right, we have Jennifer Salazzo. She is a life resident of Oswego. She is a fourth-generation Oswego native where she knew she would want to stay and raise her family. She is a mother of a 13-year-old who is a 3-sport scholar athlete, junior honor society member, and currently in the 8th grade at our own Oswego Middle School. Jennifer attended SUNY Oswego for college until she decided to work within the building trades as a fourth-generation laborer, working on many local projects. She's also a member of the Labor's Local Number 633, where she holds the titles of Training Director, Executive Board Recording Secretary, District Council Delegate, and Trustee over Health and Welfare, also with the training funds. As Training Director, she interviews various students right out of high school for our apprenticeship program. Jennifer is a member of the Central and Northern New York Building Trades and Construction Trades Council. She is also currently the Civil Scaffold Lead at 9 Mile Point, working for Allied Power. She plans and executes the work for all laborers, carpenters, painters, and ironworkers. Jennifer is also very involved in our community. For the past 3 years, she has planned and executed a laborers golf tournament where they have raised money for the local animal shelter. She started a Love of Labor Spotlight campaign, which has brought in donations to donate backpacks and school supplies for Fitzhugh Park School, yearly donations to the OHS Paradox, Pop Warner Football, and most recently for the SAB Club for the post-prom party. Thank you for all of that. Jennifer has also coordinated donations from all the trades at 9 Mile Point to supply an enjoyable Christmas, including gifts and food to multiple families in our community. In addition, she has also been a member of the Ladies Auxiliary of the American Legion for about 20 years now. Jennifer's main goal is the children. She wants to ensure that they have the opportunity to be successful and happy, and that starts with the best education right here within the Oswego City School District. She wants to make sure that they have opportunities to have the best athletic program to also help achieve their goals. So with that, we are going to start with our questions. I have a counterpart here tonight, home and school president, vice president at Fitzhugh Park School, Catherine Foxgrove. So we'll start with the first question. First question we'll pose to Mr. McKenzie, then Mr. Rice, then we'll go to Ms. Salazzo, and then the second question we'll start with Mr. Rice, Ms. Salazzo, and then back to Mr. McKenzie. So this question is for all of you. What do you feel the Oswego City School District needs to improve on first, and why?
So I think it's something that we've been talking about for a while, and I'm going to go to culture. I think we've been doing better with it, but when you talk about the culture of a school district, it's really going to be about whether the kids buy into their own education. I mean, parents, if you become a parent, you realize that you can't make your kids eat and you can't make your kids sleep. You can't make students learn. They have to really want to buy into being there, and culture means a lot of things when it comes to that. The culture could be about the teachers and the administration and how they set the stage for the learning. It could be about the kids and feeling safe and comfortable with each other and respectful of one another and respectful of the teachers and other staff and professionals who are in the buildings. It could be about the aesthetics of the building. There are so many different things when it comes to culture, but to me, if you don't have a culture that is conducive to education, you're going to have a hard time getting those kids on the fringes. And that's really the toughest part of education, right? Because those students who come from families who really value education, they're going to do well typically. They're not going to need a lot of motivation to do it. But how the rest of the students are supported by the structures that we have will allow them to succeed where they may not have before. You know, I think when I think about culture, I think about the times where I hear that a student says about usually an elementary teacher, because they're usually pretty young, but that Maybe it's this first time that an adult treated them nicely, or first time they really looked at them as a person who cared about them. Those are the kids that are most at risk. And if we have a culture of all, then it's not just the kids who are doing well. The kids who are doing well are going to help create the culture for the kids who are not. So I guess first thing for anything, if you're going to have a productive unit, you've got to have the good working culture.
Very good, thank you. Tim, same question. What do you feel the Oswego City School District needs to improve on first, and why?
I'm on. You're on. Just better communication with our community. I think we've lacked for years, whether it be the teachers with the parents and helping however we can improve on that. And as board members, communicating to be able to, we ask a lot of our taxpayers. And us communicating better as a board will help their support in what we want to do with our school district. And part of that as well is public elected officials. We also need to represent the people in our community. And I think we really lack at doing that, and we can improve greatly on. I'm not going to be as long as Jim. It was all good.
Thank you. Jennifer? Absolutely. What do you feel the Oswego City School District needs to improve on first, and why?
I believe that mainly I'm going to stick to the respect within the students and the bullying and the rising of the mental health crisis. I know that if you want to go to school, you do want to learn, and just something as simple as another student picking at another student the whole time and a student not wanting to go to school, that just automatically takes away from the education part of it. So just if all kids, work together with the counselors and get more time with each other and just more respect towards each other, and the respect starts at home, bringing it in from the community.
Hi, I'm going to piggyback off that last question. Mr. Rice, in your opinion, what's the most important aspect of a school district's culture?
I'll have to learn this better. The most important aspects of the school district's culture is the inclusion of all our students, and part of that being with our capital projects. One of the things that I'd like to get more into is we're limited on funds, and always will be as a school district, as every organization is the projects we do to include the biggest number of students that we can, and not just benefiting one small group of our students. And as part of our culture, obviously in today's world, is a safe environment for our students and our teachers to operate out of and to be able to thrive in. I mean, I'd say that's truly the most important thing to answer the question.
Ms. Salazzo, I will repeat the question. In your opinion, what's the most important aspect of a school district's culture?
If you base it off my first answer, it's the way everybody is treated as a whole. all students could be treated the same, no matter what their home lives are or whatever. Everybody could come from somebody might not have a good home life. Nobody knows what anybody goes through at home, and maybe those people students need a little extra help, and to just bring the whole community together as a whole, it would just make everybody in each school just want to do the education more.
It's tough. There's like 5, maybe 6 pillars of culture when it comes to school. But you asked for a singular one. So I'm going to go with respect. I think, and it's a little bit redundant, so I won't take so much time as the first one, because I did talk a lot about culture. But without respect, everything else falls apart. If you're not kind to one another because you don't respect one another, if you're not respectful in your classroom or in your cafeteria or your study hall or in the hallways, if you're not respectful of your Chromebooks and they don't come back the way they should, if you're not respectful of the facilities Mr. Rice talked about, facilities are kept up, but if they're not respected by the people who use them, then they quickly go away and they're not what they should be. So I think you can't have many of the other aspects of culture and have a successful school culture without beginning with the idea of a mutual respect for everybody.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Salazzo, we'll start with you for this next question. What are your views on safety in our buildings?
I believe that we have the great resource officers at all the different buildings, and I do believe that, I just feel like we keep talking about respect, but I've heard horror stories and I've heard beautiful stories from the resource officers. I know that my daughter's at the middle school and they feel safe there. We have the new metal detectors, and it's just bringing in a whole new light for 2025. And I believe that there could be more at certain schools, more officers at certain schools, and just to maybe make everybody feel as a whole, but
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Jim, what are your views on safety in our buildings?
I think we're doing better, but I think as with most everything, there is room for improvement. In my 5 years on the board, we've greatly expanded the SRO program. I think that was very important. When it comes to school safety, having not just the SROs, but having other adults in the building, all right, is going to be very important. Jennifer mentioned the weapons detection system. I think that's a step in the right direction. We spearheaded it in OHS here, and then it's moved on, is now at the middle school. The plan is to move them throughout the district. The nice thing, they're movable. We can take them to the football field if we have an event there. With anything else, it takes time to learn, right? It's going to take time. What's the best sensitivity for them? What's the best way to move our students through the line and get them into the building? There's always going to be logistical things when it comes to it, but with any endeavor, I think there's always room for improvement. Once you start settling on your laurels and sit back and say all's good, you stop being analytical. You stop thinking about things, and that's where things can go badly, or you could have just been wrong and things weren't necessarily as great as you want. If you're not self-reflective, you're not great. So I do think we are moving in the right direction. We have invested from a board member standpoint, and the only things we have about us are policy and budget. And in budget, I've been very supportful of the additional resources in our SROs and the other staff. So I think we're doing a lot better. I think we can still work on it.
Very good. Thank you. Tim, same question. What are your views on safety in our buildings?
To go along with Jim, I think the current school board, you've done a great job in the advances we've made in this district. With the addition of the SROs in all the schools, limiting access points to keep our students and our teachers safe. And on a personal level, this will be a couple votes off. My wife works in one of the schools, so I appreciate it on a personal matter as well.
Very good. Thank you. We do have half sheets of paper for those of you in the audience. They're over by the door where you entered and also by the snacks. So please feel free to jot down any question that we can then pose to all the board members. Catherine?
We're starting with Mr. McKenzie, I believe, right? Okay. What role should our schools play in educating students about sex, gender, and race?
It's a good question. And as somebody who hasn't been in the elementary, middle, or high school for decades now, I don't know what the current curriculum looks like, to be honest with you, when it comes to that level of instruction. I think absolutely they are topics that we should be discussing at grade appropriate levels. What we're doing in first is not the same as sixth, is not the same as 10th, but there are absolutely things that we should be discussing. Having my children go through the high school health and hearing what they talk about health as somebody who is health, more research, but I am very interested in human health. Listening to the things they cover in that class, I love it. I love the real life experiences and the truths that are being told to students, because without fact, students will make poor decisions. Not that you tell them the truth, they give them all the info, they may still make poor decisions. But I think they're far more likely to do it if they're not educated on things. So I think it's important that we are adhering to the New York State curriculum. I think that these are topics that should be discussed, but in a way that is appropriate for the grade levels in which they're being discussed in.
Repeat the question.
Please.
What role should our schools play in educating students about sex, gender, and race?
I'm going to revert back to, I sit on many boards, as my bio said. If we're allowed, I mean, at this point, in every other board I've been involved in, is what's allowed. I mean, to consult our attorney just to save the school district. I mean, every board I'm on, you're super conservative to protect the fund, protect the hall, protect the school district. With that said, as Jim said, yes, everything needs to be taught to state guidance, whatever is allowed. I can't answer what is allowed because I haven't seen the curriculum. But if it's acceptable and there's guidelines by the state, then yes, go by the guidelines and teach it at the school and talk to the community for their support.
I'll repeat the question. What role should our schools play in educating students about sex, gender, and race?
I believe that it is 2025. The world's changing, and it's changing fast. I think that all kids need to be educated on everything that we're going to be running into, but I do believe everything is age appropriate. I do believe that certain things shouldn't be taught in kindergarten and should wait till the child's mind is a little bit more mature and can even accept the information at that point in their adolescence.
Thank you. Tim, we'll start with you for our next question. Clear communication and transparency have been board and district goals. What are your thoughts about the district's efforts to achieve these goals? And if elected, how will you help our district improve in these areas?
As I said before, I think part of a school board anywhere is just better communicating with the community. I mean, the school district obviously is the foundation of our community. And the issues we may have getting the taxpayer support is that lack of communication and lack of representation of all the demographics in that community. I believe me coming on board, obviously, my background's labor. I mean, for the past 35 years, I am labor. I'm not going to apologize for it. That's who I represent, and that's who I am. I believe me coming on the board will get that part of our community involved and get them more and more on board with the school district to support it more and more. We already do financially. We sponsor all the teams and all of that. We do the paradox and the stuff a bus and everything. Labor has always done that for the community. And us as elected public officials, you have to recognize who is in our community and support them as well, which I think we failed and has caused a disconnect within our community, in the elephant in the room, or I wouldn't be sitting here.
All right, thank you. Jennifer, same question. Would you like me to repeat it? Okay, it's pretty lengthy. Clear communication and transparency have been board and district goals. What are your thoughts about the district's efforts to achieve these goals? And if elected, how will you help our district improve in these areas?
I think I'm going to piggyback off Tim at this point, because I also come from the labor side, and I do believe that the building trades within Oswego County, the city of Oswego, we do represent quite a percentage of the city, and I think that to have myself on this board, it would bring in a whole different dynamic maybe to support the school district with not just like the small donations to the different schools, to get more fundraising going and getting the community involved in more fundraisers for something bigger for the school. So that way the taxpayers of the city of Oswego will see what they're contributing to, not just something small within the school like the paradox that, half the city doesn't see. So if we get something larger in there and just get more of the community involved.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Jim, your turn.
So I'm going to respectfully disagree that we're not as transparent as some may believe. I believe that we're doing better than we have in the past. I think, as with other things, there can be room for improvement. There always is. I'm really one that I kind of appreciate when people call me on things sometimes, because I know I'm fallible. I know there's room to grow. And if I don't learn my lesson, how can I not repeat it? I'm going to be doomed to repeat it. So I do believe that we are much better. I'll take, for example, our time with doing our strategic plan, right? When we were doing our strategic plan, we brought in more stakeholders from the community. I don't know if it was 50-50, but there were so many stakeholders. And as we've gone through our strategic plan right now, the plan now, because you can't have a plan unless you assess your plan, we're bringing all of those community members back. We'll invite the ones we had last time if there are new ones that would like to come in, but we're going to have that open dialogue with everybody. And to speak to the elephant in the room, when we've had things that have been labor-related in dealing with that, I know the board has spent months speaking with people that represent the labor people. We had our lawyers, we had our architects, we had a lot of people having open and frank discussions for months with labor people when they were the stakeholders that needed to be discussed. We made sure to have lengthy discussions on it. We believe we did the job to the point where when the vote was coming up, we had a representative at that meeting to specifically talk about it. So again, I do think that we do much better than we did before I was on the board. I would hope that members of our community think that the last 5 years were better than years before. But if not, and if I'm still on the board come July, please feel free to share with me the ways we can do better, and I promise I'll work on that.
Thank you. We're gonna pivot a little bit. Mr. Rice, would you be willing to support a district-wide policy that requires a specified time for outdoor recess every day?
I'm trying to think why I wouldn't say no. A specific time,
A specified time for outdoor recess every day.
even in the winter. I'm going to say no, just because of where we live, because you aren't going to want to go out. That 1 week we had. But I don't see an issue I mean, fresh air is healthier than being in these schools, and part of my trade is installing this HVAC. Sorry, it's hot in here. I don't see how I can say no.
I don't know how you can say no, but it is Oswego, New York. And just judging by the weather we have out there right now, it has not stopped for weeks. I don't know why you'd send kids out in a monsoon, or a snowstorm, but I think that the kids need a free minute in the day. It would be good to have fresh air during that free time, but I guess it would be weather dependent.
So conceptually, yes, absolutely. Both of my children, they were fortunate enough to have them in the Sheldon Institute before they were kindergarten ready, and they went out every single day. Now, there was a requirement to have gloves and jackets and boots, and if they didn't have it, because the Sheldon Institute is a well-run organization, they had all of those things for them. That was part of things that they put into their budget as part of it. But we're the Oswego City School District, and we have a couple things to come up against that. The clothing is an absolute one with our weather. It astounds, and I'm not just going to say it's always the family issue. There are so many clothes sitting around the high school and middle school that kids just leave there, right? And part of the visitation committee, go around and look at it. So they may have it, but they don't know where it is anymore. And it's also a resource issue. Boy, sorry, just realized I got that much closer. It's a resource issue. One of my very first forays into getting involved in school matters was because my daughter, when she was at Kingsford Park, she was having physical education every third day. They went to an ABC schedule, and I just thought that was completely wrong. Now, I understand there were staffing issues that made it be true, but I asked for a meeting, and I went in and I spoke with the superintendent Guai, and I spoke with Dr. Sweeney, and I said, listen, New York state law says you have to have a certain amount of phys ed days, and you're doing 1/3 of it right now. It used to be half. I didn't complain when it was half, but it's now 1/3. So they listened to me, and to their credit and my appreciation, we ended up with a new half-time person at KPS. I think it was shared with another building, that we could get the phys ed back to twice a day. I'm sorry, every other day. Resource issues are going to have that problem. But one of the reasons, so with all of that, yes, in concept, it's great. I love the fact we have our turf field out there, and the fact that we can get kids out more on a grass or field that they can actually use without tearing up and destroying. That was one of the reasons why that was designed and put in the way it was. So I think there's ways we can do better. I know, I agree with Mr. Wright. I don't think we'll ever get to the answer, yes, they're always doing that. But we can work towards it.
Very good, thank you. Jennifer, we'll start with you for this next question. What role do you think technology should play in a school district?
I think it plays a huge role, especially in this day and age. Everything is changing rapidly, and you can't do anything without being able to use a phone or a computer. And just some of the advances that has been made with like the STEM clubs and everything and brought in the more technology, just sparks kids, just sparks their interest even more. And just some kids even want to become an engineer just based off an extra technology class within the school. I know my daughter, just for example, just going from technology in middle school and doing different STEM projects out at SUNY Oswego, she completely changed that she wanted to maybe go towards engineering in her future. So I totally agree that we need more of it.
Thank you. Jim?
So I think the technology is broken down into the educational and then I want to have fun. We just had a little meeting in there with all of the nice gaming seats and the computers with the headsets, and I think that is an important thing to bring to students from an extracurricular aspect. But, as Jennifer mentioned, technology is integrated into everything we do. If I'm getting a college student coming in who doesn't know how to work with files on a computer because everything's been cloud-based for them, then they've missed out something. They still need to learn something else because technology is ingrained in everything we do. But at the same time, and as we're learning and as we'll get more into this, unless I hear different, and I'm always willing to keep an open mind, but unless I hear different, we really need to pay attention to the impact of AI. I feel as though our current the way children are thinking, at least the ones I'm getting as freshmen in college, is the idea that we don't have to memorize anything anymore because everything's at your fingertips. I can pull up the phone. I can use AI to write the speech for me. The problem becomes you can maybe have AI write the speech, but do you know what was written in the speech? Can you detect the accuracy of the things in there? Can you give the speech and then have somebody ask you a follow-up question and know what you were talking about? And with the memorization, if you don't have a base knowledge, how do you even know what to ask AI to generate for you? There has to be a base knowledge of things. So I think our biggest thing when it comes to technology moving forward as a district is not going to be the nuts and bolts. COVID solved that for us. We were one of the districts that didn't have a unit for every student. We spent over $1 million and everybody's got a Chromebook. And when they break, we buy new Chromebooks. So I think we've set ourselves up well that way. We just need to be really prepared for how society is so rapidly changing around AI and how that's going to affect education.
Thank you. Tim?
I'm gonna approach it in two different ways here. Technology, because of my background in the trades. I mean, technology, it's here. Everyone's using it. I think we can improve as a district in focusing more on the basic skills of using technology. Whether it's, I've always made the joke, which really isn't foolish, is to require keyboarding for 4 years because everything we're doing now is on a computer. Me as a plumber pipe fitter, as you progress up your career, your project manager and that type of thing, you're on the computer. You need those skills. You need to know how to open Windows, use Excel. And then with technology education, obviously, we can have some major improvements in this district. And this is the selfish part of me sitting here as well. We're interviewing apprentices right now, and we're interviewing our kids from our district. this is points on our state ranking system for the apprentices, is what technology classes have you had? What construction math have you had? And all that type of thing. We can improve better in this district because other kids, we just interviewed 350 kids for 50 spots. In the other districts, they are way ahead of us on this. I will say this about our district. Our core subjects of math and science, that's our first year of the kids, they have a sound foundation coming out of this district. And we have many, many kids that we're recruiting out of this district. And as Jim said, there's always room for an improvement as well.
If anybody has any more questions to write down, now's your chance. I'm going to do kind of a dual purpose question here. I'm starting with Jennifer, I believe, right? Yep, okay. Oh, my, okay. No, if he ended, she's, yep. So, okay. 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 Who's it? Okay. 2 tiers. What do you see as your most important purpose as a school board member? And do you have some specific ideas of how you would improve the school district?
So the most important thing of a school board member is got to be willing to work with people and to listen. I think one of the things that I can bring to the district, and I have. Thank you, Matt. I think one of the big things is team building, is collaboration, is active listening and thinking through things. As a scientist, my training is to kind of look at questions from a way of not just what you think might be true, but then to also look at all of the possible alternative explanations out there and to eliminate them because you've thought about them, to eliminate them because you have the data on them. And so I think a big part of the collaboration that I bring to a group is making sure that we're thinking through things as much as possible when making the decisions that a board member has to make, because boards sometimes have to make very difficult decisions. And if we're not working together as a group, drawing in our various expertise, which is good for a board, I will say now, I will disagree a little bit with what was said earlier. I think our board is well diverse right now. I'm going to give a shout out to Mr. David Crisafulli, who served this district for 44 years, who was a facilities person for 41 years, was the CSEA president for 15 years, I believe. We had that diversity. Now, he's moving on, and I wish him happy in his formal now retirement from the school. But I think that that communication with that diverse group and bringing people together to think through it is an important part of being a board member. So one thing that I would really look to change, because we have been working on culture, we have been working on a strategic plan, we have been working on safety. One of the things I think we really need to continue working on are our capital projects. Right? We had a capital project in 2018 that we're rounding out now, but we have another one that was passed overwhelmingly by the public, and I was very happy in October of last year when that happened. That's a $46 million project, and we learned a lot from our previous projects. We have a plan, if you've been paying attention, Dr. Kilmer has talked about it a number of times. The 2024 plan is going to be followed by the 2026 and the 2028. We are hoping that we have our community support and that we can build up our infrastructure in a way that allows us to say, we're proud of our buildings, we're proud of our athletic fields, which, again, the field's nice, great, we do more out the track, right? But we're proud of these things, that we can be the community. When somebody comes into our district, they go, wow, look at Oswego. Why aren't we doing this? Where right now, honestly, I hear more of people going other places and going, did you see this at this district? Why aren't we doing it? Did you see, oh wow, why aren't we? I think we need to fundamentally change that. One of the pillars of school culture are your physical facilities, how your students feel about it, how they feel. We're doing a heck of a lot better now. Tim pointed up to lights and HVAC, I think you mentioned. The lights on the visitation committee that I've been going through, for some of these schools that the hallways were all yellow, and now they're a nice bright white. I mean, that makes a significant difference. That's something else that we've done or we're continuing to do. Right? So I would really focus on, and again, I'm not saying that the capital projects are the number one priority, but what I'm saying is that given all of the other things we have in progress right now, that is one that we can pay attention and should be paying attention to.
Thank you. Mr. Rice?
You,
I'm going to
I
read it
forgot
again.
what the
Don't you?
question was.
I did too. What do you see as your most important purpose as a school board member? And do you have some specific ideas of how to improve the school district?
I may add to what Mr. McKenzie? Am I on? Yeah. To add to that, the work that the current board has done. And I see one, the lighting we've installed on the outside of the buildings as well at Kingsford and at Riley. And especially at Riley, because that's our walk route. It's great. The school's well lit now and is a major improvement. Forgot the question. The purpose of the school board and how to improve, basically, right?
You can just
Sure.
go with it, yeah. It's a lot.
I mean, other than the obvious, is any board setting policy, hiring a superintendent, and all that? That's the purpose of the school board or any board. How to improve on that? As I said before, I think a big improvement we can make in this district with our board is better communication and better involvement of the community, which will bring the support for our projects, for our budgets going forward. And as I said again, I believe I bring a demographic with me to help get that support into our district as well.
Thank you. One more time. Jennifer, what do you see as your most important purpose as a school board member? And do you have specific ideas you have to improve the school district?
I think I'm going to bounce off both and say, Jim brought up the infrastructure of everything. I think that the buildings of everything and bringing in like the apprenticeship. Personally, I interview kids right out of high school and interview them to become part of our apprenticeship program. So I feel as if we put all of our time and effort into these students through their whole school career to just watch them go. Well, a lot of those kids go into the trade schools, and all that would do was support them. The buildings, local projects. Myself, when I came out of the apprenticeship program from the laborers, I was a part of many local projects before going to the new plant, and just to know that you helped create, being at that young age, just out of high school, to know that you helped create something in your local hometown, it is extremely good feeling. So some kids, you don't go to college, and some kids might feel different about not going to college. Well, I can say I helped create things in this town, and I think that having the apprenticeships program in all of our contracts, I think that it's near and dear to myself. So I feel like that would be a big priority, just to include the students coming out of high school in our future.
Very good. Thank you. Our next question, Tim, we'll start with you. What do you think most differentiates you from the other candidates?
What most differentiates me? I guess I would be the senior person of these candidates. I've been involved basically in politics for the past 30 years, 35 years. And I mean, the other candidates, I mean, our visions and improving in the school district, I mean, we're all looking for the same thing at the end. You know, mine, I differentiate it, all right, I'm different, I guess, because I believe there's more selling that needs to be done to the community. And me sitting here is showing you need to sell better to the community. And part of your responsibility, which I don't think the other candidates, Jen probably does, but is a public elected official, and continuity on a board is important, as Jim said. You also have a responsibility to do something to keep that continuity. This current board hasn't done that to keep that continuity on the board. And it is important. It's important on every board. But you also have to do something to keep that.
Thank you. Jennifer? What do you think most differentiates you from the other candidates?
I feel like for us three candidates up here, we are different in a lot of ways. I think number one, I am a mom with a student currently in the middle school, so I still have years to go with that. She is in every sport she can be, and she is heavily involved with Junior Honor Society and her volunteering, and it's just made me more committed to this school district and more committed to this city. I feel like 13 years ago, I couldn't say that I would be in this spot right now, but you know, she has made me want to become more and more involved every school year. She just, oh, I want to join this club and I want to join this sport and I want to try this, and it's like, let's go for it. And I feel like you do need part of that on a board to say, you know, to have somebody that committed right in the now as a mother.
Thank you. Jim?
The easy answer is that this is the third time I've run for the board. But that's not the best answer. I think the thing that really differentiates myself from the other two candidates is our feeling about the apprenticeship resolution that the board decided to rescind in January. And for those of you who don't know about that, it was where New York State law back in 2001 and then our Oswego School Board in 2009 came up with a resolution that said every capital project that was over $150,000 was required to have bids be from apprenticeship programs. Unfortunately, I know unions do a majority, if maybe not all in this area, of apprenticeship programs. I think those two things get a little intermixed because the apprenticeships that New York State wrote into law in 2001 talk about apprenticeships. In New York State, you can have licensed apprenticeships with the state and not be a business that does any union affiliation. So this is really about the apprenticeships that we've been speaking to. And as a board member, I've been dealing with this a while. In 2001, 2009, this may have been perfect for us. For those of you, I'm not sure how old you are, Tim, but I finally hit the 50-year mark. I've been in education long enough, especially in this time of the early 2000s. There was this idea that everybody had to be college ready. And without giving commentary on that, I know that it detracted from the trades and that these laws and these resolutions were helped to build the trades back up. And I get that. I understand why that was happening. When I came on the board in 2020, one of the very first committees I was on was facilities. And we were working on the 2018 project, and we kept cutting things. There were cost runovers. And while I know that some of it was part of COVID, part of it was the resolution that we rescinded in January, that this current board did. To give you an example, as part of my learning about this, we had some bids come in a couple years ago where a non-apprenticeship program, a non-apprenticeship company bid, and because of our resolution, we couldn't take the $2.1 million bid. We had to take the $2.5 million bid that what did have an apprenticeship program. That 18% markup on that one project cost us $400,000. So if that 18% is high, that's an anomaly. But even if we say it's like 10% or 15%, for this project we're finishing at $64 million right now, that's $6.5 to $9.5 million that's not being directly invested in our infrastructure. And to me, a big difference is I feel that the fiduciary responsibility of a board member is to look out for the school district. Now, when you look up the fiduciary aspect, it also talks about, in the board member's handbook, about the community, right? And so one of the things that helped my evolution of this thought was when I was running 2 years ago. When I was running 2 years ago, I met with a number of local Oswego politicians. I met with business leaders. And what they told me was, we need to get the schools on track to where we can sell the schools to people who want to move here. Everybody's been talking about Micron for years. That will come or go, we don't know. But I'll tell you, when I sat in some of these meetings, they said, this was 2 years ago, Mayor Barlow has been working to revitalize our downtown, to get our housing, to get our retail going. The Oswego Renaissance is revitalizing our communities. And if we're going to attract people in, if we're going to be a destination because we got the biggest resource we can, the lake, that when you look at where you're going to move, you're going to look at the housing and the retail, you're going to look, do you have a local hospital? Check mark. What are your schools like? So at that time, a couple years ago, I interpreted that as it's all hands on deck to turn our schools around. And when I look at the possibility of 10 to 15%, millions of dollars not being spent on our district because they're going to the apprenticeship programs, I don't think that's part of our fiduciary responsibility. Because the apprenticeship program, as you were saying, these are graduating students. The apprenticeship program is about, at that point, although my son is 18, going to be 19, we're talking adults, right? If I were on the board of trustees of Cayuga Community College, my decisions would be based on adult learning. But I'm on the school board of a K through 12 school district. And I feel as though it's our responsibility to the students to give them the infrastructure. It's a responsibility to give the educators the infrastructure that creates the culture and allows them to do the best job as necessary, best job they can. Because we do invest in the trades through BOCES, through PTech. I am willing to commit as much money as BOCES will take. Unfortunately, sometimes BOCES doesn't have as many spots as the number of students who want, but I absolutely am not one of those people who are college ready. So I understand why this policy came about 25 years ago, but I also have to think in the 25 years, as far as I know, currently right now, there are 0 school districts in New York State who had this policy. It's because we rescinded it. We were the only one. There's a handful of municipalities that do it, but I believe that we are very much different in this case, and that I think that our money at this time and place for our community, to build our community to the place that we think is best for kids, the place we want to make a destination to live, I think that's our biggest difference. I stand by what we did, and Unless somebody convinces me otherwise, that's the position I take.
Thank you for your answer. I do have 3 questions left, but we are woefully running out of time. So I'm going to choose one, and he just kind of went with the other one, so we're going to go with this one. Tim, what involvement should a Board of Education member have in the school buildings or with the employees or programs of each building? I can
Now
repeat
I'm
that
on.
for you. That was a lot.
What involvement should we have in the buildings? Basically, if there isn't enough now, talking to the educators and the staff in the buildings, then we can improve on that with the board members. I mean, right now, with the policies that the board has in place with the visitation committee, and I would hope the facilities committee is actually touring the buildings. We have involvement in the buildings right now, and, I mean, work with the board, continuing that.
I do know that the board has their current, is it the liaison? So I know that it is happening right now, and if it ever needed to be improved, I believe it would just be a board decision.
I love the liaisons. We didn't do it in my first 3 years. We should have. And I'll just leave it at that. But we've been doing it for the last couple of years. And I think that's very good. But to directly answer your question, it should be nothing more than somebody who is a good active listener, who is somebody who can communicate the appropriate channels to go through. Because at the end of the day, the school board has one employee, and that's the superintendent. And it's really that person's job to work with every single other employee. So as I have in the past numerous times, I encourage people to come talk to me, and I want to hear where they are and why they feel the need to talk to me. But then I feel it's my job to help them understand and to understand myself. What have they gone through? Have you spoken to your building principal? Have you spoken with somebody in the educational department? Have you spoken with Dr. Kilmer? If you can check all those boxes, then you're in the right room. Now, it just may be that the board member, because any board member can't do anything. Every board member has to do something with the other board members. But I think it's the ability to then facilitate communication. If all avenues have been exhausted, I think your job is to, after that active listening, to help facilitate a conversation to go beyond what it already has. Because that person wouldn't have come talk to you if they didn't feel the need to. And I can't say all the times probably, but it's been that all of the communication avenues have not been done, and through the conversation, I don't hear from it again, so because the last thing I said, if you don't get what you need, please come back, talk to me. And that really hasn't happened. So I hope that I've been helpful and that method has been productive.
Excellent, thank you. We have come to the hour mark, so in closing, we're going to ask each of you to just make any closing remarks, anything that you would like to leave with all of the folks here and also the ones at home, just to get that last encouragement so that when they go out and vote on May 20th, they're informed. So Jennifer, we will start with you.
I think in closing, I'm fully committed to making the school district as best as it can be. I grew up here, and I want to see it be successful, and it just, as a whole, it means a lot to me, and I would do anything I can to make anybody happy with it.
I'm at least third generation educator. And as we all do in education, we count years. I love it. I am ending year 46. Since I started as either a student or teacher, I have never left school. Never. In the last 46 years, I've just completed, I've been either a student or a teacher. I feel so gracious for what education has given me and allows me and my family to do. I've loved my kids' education. I just want to give back. Right? I do think, as you mentioned for my opening remarks, strong school districts have continuity. My wife's in school districts. She's worked in multiple. I've paid attention to school districts because if you're going to be on a board, don't just pay attention to what your board's doing. Pay attention to what people around you are doing. There might be lessons to learn, things to avoid, whatever it may be. I feel as our district, when I look at the names of the leadership on the board, in the district office, which I'm in, and I look and this person served this year to this year, so many 3 and outs, so many 3 and outs. That's why I'm running a third time. That's why I've appreciated my other board members who have been willing to run multiple times. Because I do think that the continuity in the leadership of the district, the continuity in the board, is really what's going to make us or break us, because we're the Titanic. We're not going to have a strategic plan and in 6 months have something drastically different with test scores. It's not going to happen. With culture, it's not going to happen. We need a constant message, and a message that everybody buys into, and everybody buys into because everybody was involved and had a voice when coming up with it. So to call back to our strategic plan, I really think we did a good job with that. And I'm appreciative of the fact that our plan is to not just look at it and assess from the school standpoint, but to include the community members and include the stakeholders as part of that process.
Thank you. Tim?
To address the apprentice language. It was brought up, to have continuity, and Jim, absolutely correct. Every board, it's important if you can just have that constant rollover, is you're learning and training and everything year after year. To maintain continuity, you have to represent the school district in the community, the members in that community. This board has decided to listen. There's one person in this room, other than myself, who's been around for the 25 years of this language being in this district. We have heard everything 100 times over, how this limits bidding, how it's cheaper to do it. It cannot be cheaper to do it. All public works projects require prevailing wage. Union, non-union, non-apprenticeship, apprenticeship programs. They have to pay the same amount of money. How is it possible? We're an education institution. We as the trades, and that's all I represent, or at Northeast Mechanical, who's a big non-union contractor that's actually out at Hewitt Union right now. They have apprenticeship programs. They promote training their kids. We promote training our kids. That's why this language has been in this district. We want to take your kids that you're educating and bring them into our program. How much this community is going to change in the next 20 years because of what's happening, your kids can live an outstanding life if they come into the trades. Part of that is supporting the craft and supporting those people so we can further educate our kids graduating from this district. You know, the $400,000. The construction manager, because we've been here for this, had one of his buddies who wasn't qualified to bid to our apprentice language, and he came in $400,000 low. Why wasn't it $800,000? He can't accept that bid. It means nothing. If you want a lower bid, let me bid the next one. I'll come in lower than that because I'm not qualified to bid it. Now I lost my track of mine. So as I've said in closing comments, I don't think this board's awful. I don't think you represent our city and our school district well. And I don't think you have, you know. And there's text messages going around in support of Jim. You know, on the political side, I have been around for a long time doing this. Yes, I had that text message. And there's something in there that mentions integrity as well. Integrity, and all I can say for myself, if I give you my word that I will represent you as a member in this community, I'll keep that word. And that's actually what integrity is, answering that text message going around. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, I would like to thank all of our candidates, not only for being here this evening, but also for throwing their hat into the ring and potentially being one of our 2 elected officials. I also want to thank our audience members for all of you that are here tonight, also submitting questions. I appreciate that. Our home and school associations, I can't thank you enough. Matt Bach, I hope everyone has a great evening. Thank you.